Hello, Rich, you're here. Good morning.
Hey Martin, how are you?
I'm I'm good. What stressful times these times. Wait, Rich, you have sent me a very interesting document, and I told you that I would like to publish it on the IP Law Tools website. Um,
Yeah.
but you didn't reply. You can put your article there with your picture and everything, and then we multiply from there.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, then I do something with it. Okay, good, thanks. And then also, huh, you know, this fighter brand, I find a very intriguing idea. And do you really think that this works? Because, I mean, I have never, I see a few of our clients, like the Rode and Schwarz, they build measurement equipment for radio, military radio applications. And but they have also very good measurement tools like spectrum analyzers and oscilloscopes and other stuff in that area. And they also build the scanners, the new scanners in airports that detect where you have metal. You need to stand there and then spread your arms and your legs, and then they would measure you. You have surely seen them. Those are made by Rode and Schwarz, and which is, by the way, is also a very interesting a story how this has been invented. There was a serial innovator who built it from the mailing budget of one of the departments that he was working in because nobody wanted to fund his invention. And they set up a second brand, which is what you call a wait, let me look it up. Uh, a fighter brand, fighting brand or combat brand as a secondary brand. And I'm not sure whether this works because the Chinese measurement tools that do the same, or more or less the same, they're still even much bigger than the fighter brand is. And yeah, so I'm not sure whether this is a success. But probably that was not your idea of having a fighter brand, right?
Well, it's no, a it's a number of different sources, that came about, but you know, two professors at Harvard Business School originated the fighter brand concept, right?
Uh-huh.
But in practicality, it does work, right? But
Hmm.
there are certain conditions that you have to have for it to have a high success potential.
Okay.
And one of those is the channel of distribution that you choose, right? Um,
Yes.
because often what companies will do is they'll just take a lower priced version and they put it into the same channel,
Ah,
and then that's a problem because now the people say, well, I can get away with only having 60% or 70% of the performance, and I'd rather have the savings of 50% in my pocket, right?
yes.
So they start buying that versus, the mid-tier or the premium tier product that they were buying before.
Uh-huh.
So you do have to put a fence around the product and a fence around the delivery of the product to ensure that you're not going to be eroding your own sales and cannibalizing
Yes.
your own efforts, right?
Oh, I
So
think sorry, Rich, you have just given me a lot of insight with what you just told me. Ah, and I give you an example. Um, I have a new client. They do also measurement tools for material testing, and the measurement tool is quite expensive. And
yeah,
their competitors have a distribution channel that allows only to purchase that equipment. So if you do material tests on site, then you need to purchase an equipment for $200,000. And maybe your revenue is only, let's say, 2 million or so. Then that means that it would eat up the profit for 2 years. Um, if you want to pay it from the cash flow before you can generate free cash for other stuff. So you need a bank loan to buy it. And that's a problem because many banks wouldn't want to finance that. So that they decided that they get investors who put the money in and they do not sell the equipment, but they rent it out and you pay per use. But the equipment is on site and you pay a higher price as if you take a bank loan, of course, if you have that equipment. But it's a new business model. And that new business model could also be part of the channel, as how you call it, right? So you say,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
you
definitely.
say, um,
It's very much that,
yes,
from a new business model.
yeah,
Um,
that was what's often overlooked. I tell people, I mean, it sounds a bit weird from the mouth of a patent attorney, but I tell people that innovation is not only uh, uh, developing a new product and filing a patent. But you can also have protection by having a new unique business model that gives you a network effect. It means a positive feedback loop so that the more you sell, not linearly more work you have, but somehow there are effects in place that reduce the amount of work for the new orders that come in and or give you a better outcome or something, whatever. This is called network effects. And what you just said is that okay, if you have a fighter brand, then don't put it in the same channel because then they would really cannibalize it. So now spoken for that, you can say okay, you can buy my expensive equipment, but you don't uh, um, you don't need to buy it. You can rent it, or
yeah,
I give you my cheaper equipment. Um, And it's so cheap that you can buy it from the cash flow, but it is not as good as what the other equipment can do.
yeah. So the other part of the fighter brand concept is, number one, it requires a very deep understanding of your customer and
Yes.
their uses, right? And you have to be able to take that understanding and put that into metrics or parameters for the product, right?
So that you
And
limit it when you have a better understanding for your customers, you know where they can take a worse or a not as powerful version, but there are some features that they need. And only
yes,
you, because knowing the customer would know what are these features.
that's correct. And but more importantly, it gives you the opportunity to make up and strip out all the overhead features that engineering threw in there because they thought that people needed them, right?
Yeah.
And um, it's just not engineering that does that. It's, marketing has,
Yes.
a say in that too. But sometimes, companies just overload the product with these features that nobody ever uses, or
Yeah.
it's like a 1% use of the capability, right? And if you think of it in software terms, most people that buy software, consumers as well as enterprises, they only use, you know 60, 70, 80% of the capability of the software. The other 20% sits idle for its life. And that's the same analogy that needs to be thought of with the use of a fighter brand.
Yes.
What can we take out and remove that's going to actually lower our costs, as well as be able to give us the feature function benefit that the bulk of the market is going to uh, admire and say, okay, I'll try that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
and then you couple that with a different channel and a different business model.
Yes.
Um, you know, the
Brilliant.
idea the idea of taking a product like that forward then it gives you the capability of being able to fend off, the potential rivals, whether they be Chinese or any other company, right?
Yes.
And it gives you protection at the low end. And when I say the low end, I mean the low end of the market. And
Yes.
because most companies, what they'll do is attack the low end and then move up into more profitable areas after they have a base of customers. Um, and
Yeah.
and that's proven in all sorts of academic studies. But
Yeah, I understand. And now we come back to the, Christoph Hering is always here, and I discuss with him often. And I and the one point is always why are Chinese car makers better than the non-Chinese car makers? And the reason is they know their customers better. And why do they know their customers better? Because these they know their customer better because the cars are connected via the internet with a central. And I believe that calls for a connection, internet connection for each product, and then collecting all the user data that you can get hold of, and as many users as possible, so that you can better know what the customers want or what they use in your product and what not. And then that helps you to design the later fighter brand.
yeah, it's that's certainly key. And the other thing that's when you think about that and employ that idea with rented equipment like you just described,
Yes.
it's very easy to do that because you still own the equipment. They're just renting it. And
Yes.
so any kind of data collection, that's still yours. Now, if you sell that piece of equipment, now you get into a data, who owns the data, question.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. I will tell them that idea or that insight so that they can, and it's really such that once you have the more data, the more equipment you sell, the more data can you collect, and the better do you know your customers and what they do and what not.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that also applies to the fight company, right? That we're here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I would equip all the equipment with a SIM card and collect data. And then at one point in time in the future, build that fighter brand that has only 60% of the functions, but most people would use, and for half the price. And maybe not as, I don't know, design wise can be even better, whatever, but but not sell over the same channel, but must be done in a different way. So the cheap one, you pay cash and no renting. And the expensive one, you can rent, and we do the financing for you. Because
Yeah. I mean, in the U.S., we have a financing method that's called rent to own, right?
yes, how does that work?
How that works is basically you pay a rental fee, and that rental fee goes towards the ultimate purchase of the equipment. Now, at the end, in some cases, you can only rent it for like 12 months. And at the 13th month, you pay the balance in full of whatever the excess is, right?
Okay.
And depending on, the company and depending on their business model, um, they may give you options, to finance that last, payment, right? Um, so there's all sorts of ways to play with that.
Yeah, and the more the longer I do this, and the more we talk about business models and not so much about R&D innovation, I believe that the much more creative field nowadays is innovation tactics, like the Osterwalder, the business model generation. I believe we should really get more into that one because of the new way of designing products with more electronics and more automated and more whatever print on demand or so. The more the business model becomes important, especially if you say, okay, now I want to harvest those people who do not want to spend so much money, and I want to prevent that they go for my cheap competition from Asia. So they can have US quality. Okay, they pay a bit more than the Chinese features, the Chinese products, but they have all the advantages of something that is made at your doorstep and not imported from overseas. Um,
Yep.
I believe that's how it could work, right? So, and even for more expensive products like a car, like why not? And with cars, even easier nowadays because when they're electric, they have much less parts as compared with the internal combustion engines. I believe that's a remarkable advantage of electric cars over internal combustion engine cars. So you can play that strategy in a smarter way because when you do your fighter brand in a car, then you would just leave away those features that most people don't need. But as in a luxury version, they are built in. For example, just today I saw that my new car in Malaysia has a rear window heater. A heating system for the rear window, what you need in a cold country, but it's sold in Malaysia, and there's never snow in Malaysia, so you will never use that feature.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So who needs that? No, nobody. And if you leave it away, you can save $50 probably.
Yeah.
And that.
When I was in business school, one of my classmates, he worked for Seiko, and we were talking one day, and he disclosed to me that at that time Seiko only had 4 movements that within its entire portfolio of watches. And I said, 4 movements? How is that possible? And he says, because we charge by the button. And I said, what's that mean? And he says, well, if you're looking at a watch with 2 buttons, there's an upcharge for each of those buttons, right? Plus the base price of the movement. And, so the basic movement is always the same, right? And that's how you get scale, is you always, make the same base product, right?
Yes. The movement.
And then by basically enabling that with buttons, you're now triggering different functions that are available in that basic movement. And I always thought that was brilliant. I don't know if they still do that or not, but
I would assume so, because I mean, the price is the same, right? Whether you support those buttons or not, but the housing makes the difference. And then also, yeah, so I just like the idea. But I'm really so grateful that you brought it in here and in the last discussion that we had with the ICI. And yeah, that really is one of the important insights. I just thought about it earlier. So just by being part of what we do here since 6 years ago, or weekly, I've learned so much about innovation that most patent attorneys can even follow what I do. Is really I saw it because I was talking with the head of a much larger firm in England. He has about 300 patent attorneys or so. So we and yeah, 300, and then maybe another 100 or 200 degree holders that are not attorneys. And then we discussed. I talked to him. I told him what I'm doing, what my business model is, because I do not want the prosecution of patents and trademarks. So I'm rather moving to the front end. I tell people how they can use the patents and the trademarks in order to make money on the table. And also I tell them what other things they can do, like a business model, right? And how you organize a business around that, and how is that applied to the legal area. I mean, to lawyers. Lawyers were used to deliver highly individual services. In my firm, we have productized everything. You can even buy a patent application using your credit card from us. So, and we give you a fixed price up front and the delivery date. And that's unheard of, because people say, how can you give a fixed price for a patent when you don't even know what it's about? I said, because we have done so many patents that we know what we do. So over 22,000 in the past 30 years. So, and is now, and I believe that's a business advantage, because with much less people, we do the same revenue as other firms. Plus, we have a marketing department who brings in the new clients, and so I could see the gears, or I could hear the gears rotating in his head when I told him all this, because he is now planning to implement the same thing for his much larger firm, but he doesn't know what is waiting for him, because there's so much resistance in our area from both from attorneys and also the other employees. Because of course, once you realize that you have an individual basis and now suddenly you need to rebuild this in order to become more like a corporate body, then of course they would resist, because they don't like this. Because then suddenly they become measurable, and then there is no way to hide, no way to, so whatever. So, but what I want to say is that talking about innovation in a systematic way for 5 years or 6 years, for how long we do that, I forgot, on a weekly basis, and even it's only 1 hour, really brought me so much forward that I don't think that there are many patent attorneys out there that would know the same as I. And today, I've again learned something that I didn't know, because I always was thinking, if you create a second brand and you undercut yourself, how would you prevent that from cannibalizing your other product? Who would still buy that one? But now you say, because you have a different business model, suddenly it makes sense.
All right,
And
right.
yeah, and also you say, and it's of utmost importance that you know your customer, because it doesn't just help that you create a second brand that is cheaper. You must also reduce the functions that it comes with. And now the question is, which functions do they need and which ones not? And the better you know the customer, the better this strategy works, because then those people who know that how they spend their money, I mean, they have also the smarter procurement, I suppose. They would go for the cheaper one. And I can tell you, the, the, there's a laser company in Germany that is selling tube lasers, that they can laser tubes from inside, outside, in every direction, and a very long distance inside the tube, and so on and so on. And it's Trumpf. And they have the luxury tube laser that you can imagine. It costs 1.2 million. And an acquaintance of mine, he is head of marketing of a machinery manufacturer in Upper Bavaria. And he told me that they bought a product from China that costs only 300,000 a quarter. It's not as powerful as the Trumpf that can do everything, but it's sufficient for what they do. And the big difference is that they don't need to ask a bank loan in order to buy that equipment. They can pay it from the free cash flow. And
Yep.
and now, do you think that Trumpf could also do the same thing? I believe so. And
Sure.
and they wouldn't sell it over the normal headquarter or over the normal sales. If I were them, I would put them into a remote place somewhere in Europe where everything is cheap. Let's say Romania, and say, okay, this is Trumpf Romania or the second brand, I don't know, Chipo Laser Point Inc. So whatever, and sell it from there. And then they have the same as the Chinese. Just the profits go into their own pocket and not to the competition. That's
Right. I mean, there's a couple different ways to do it. One is, as you just described, and another way to think about it is to set it up, still under Trump, and then just have it, Trump Light, right? LITE or
Mhm.
LIGHT,
Mhm.
and meaning that, okay, now if you're going to buy that piece of equipment, you're going to buy, over the internet, right?
Mm.
You're not going to deal with somebody face to face. You're not going to, have a super long warranty. I don't know what Trump warranties are, but I know that the company, I've been in the Trump facility in Chicago, and and looked at their equipment, and so I know the company. And
Okay.
I actually have a little car that they made for our group when we went through there,
Okay.
that they made on their bending machines and etching machines, and it was pretty clever at the end. Anyway, um, and then so you're not going to deal with somebody face to face to buy it. You're not going to,
Yes.
basically have the same warranty coverage. You're going to have basically um, an automatic payment, deducted,
Yes.
on the 30th of each month, and so on and so forth. So you now chip away at these things, and any service costs are going to be at, full cost, right?
Mm.
There's not going to be any, cheaper
Mm.
savings on service,
Yes.
um, because you got to keep it running. But basically and you're going to have the Trump service guy do it. So um, that's another approach to bundling that package as a
Mm.
fighter brand, right?
Yes.
And that's how far it needs to expand. It just doesn't, come out with. It's just not a product, right? It's all the intangibles along with the tangible that go with it.
Hmm. Yeah. And plus, again, I can only emphasize the fighter brand should come with a obligatory data connection.
Yeah, I mean, man, if a company can get that, uh, I mean, that's a huge win, um,
Mm.
because long term that data is going to be invaluable, right?
Yes.
Um, by the way, just as a reminder, I did a part two document,
Okay.
and that part two document is basically defending the core, five core strategic countermeasures
Hmm.
that a Mittelstand, company could take, right, against the Chinese. Um,
Yeah, that actually you're giving even recipes that they can apply. That just look at the Chinese market, look at what could be the closest competitor. Now do the same, right?
right, right. Well,
And then think about the business model to sell the same thing that makes sure that your core business, the high price core business, is not hurt.
yeah, but, sometimes I mean, the Chinese are going to have, the right recipes, so to speak, of the right product feature function benefits, but you
Mm.
need to you need to confirm that. You just can't blatantly copy it, right?
Why not?
Because you could be, putting cost in there that is detrimental. to
No,
your
the cheapest is
strategy.
always if you copy something that exists there. And this is why we have a product that's called Freedom to Operate. And you would be surprised. Um, if I can change the theme, please continue the 5 cores. Are you done? Because after that I have something.
No, the 5 cores basically come down to business model is one, integrated solution ecosystem, like we just talked about with
Yes.
that data connection, deep customer co-innovation and hyper
Yes.
customization. That's another strategy to go to take, and then accelerating your innovation cycle and
Yes.
basically staying ahead of the competition. In this case, we're referencing the Chinese, right?
Yes.
And the fifth one is strategic local for local supply chains and de-risking that alignment. So and in that I give several bullet points, and then also I describe the defensive moat that you get with that, each of those steps. And there's a comparative overview of strategic options that includes the fighter brand and these others, and then of course the list of references that I use. So I can send that to you as well.
Yes, yes. But again, as spoken before, I publish your article on IP Lawyer Tools. I'm not sure whether I can match the design that you have, because you put a very fancy design, but I try my best. What the team can do.
Yeah, whatever. I mean,
Yeah. But at least then it's published somewhere. Then it has your name. Then we multiply it on LinkedIn to a few million people in the groups that I have and the follow. So and then we see where we go. But I find this so important. This thought is one of the key insights that I had over the past 6 years, similar to the Ansoff diagram that also came by you. Yeah.
right.
And as Michael is here, also the S curve from the yellow book. I forgot now the name, but I find it. It sits here in my.
Yes, Martin. It's called Innovation: The Attacker's Advantage by
Yeah.
Richard Foster, and he comes from McKinsey. It's a very famous book.
Yeah. So if I can say 3 basic things, among those are truly the Ansoff diagram, and also that book with the S curve, and that's so important for innovation. But what I wanted to say is the following. I came across something very funny. The longer I'm in Singapore, the more I discover how the system works here. And one of the systems is that the government invests heavily into innovation. So they want to, and they created an ecosystem consisting of a part of the IP system, of which I'm part of. Then they have startup incubators and accelerators and whatever. And then there are also there's a program to bring companies in with money to support startups. And there are other companies that bring startups in who would leverage on the know-how and on the intellectual property created by the local research institutes. So the local research institutes, I believe, in average, they're funded with $1 billion per year. And they created something like Fraunhofer Institute or in Germany, and I believe that was one of the examples. So they have and now all these institutions have to license out their know-how and their IP. So I spoke with a company that saw me, because our firm is one of the very few firms in Singapore who do not work for the government, which means we do not have a conflict of interest. And so I can freely say, give my advice what they can do in order to improve the situation. And some companies, they like that, among others, Airbus Industries. So, and there was this startup, and they came here, and they have licensed something from one of the local research institutes. And so I had a look at the license agreement, and because the investors were somehow worried, and then I discovered the loophole. because these organizations, they just patent their stuff in Singapore. While since last year, maybe I told you, Malaysia has opened its border for Singapore. So many Singaporeans, like myself, they do now business in Malaysia. And that also means that if you don't have a patent in Malaysia, but only in Singapore, if you just travel over the bridge, then you can do what you want. And that is also why suddenly, somehow that makes a round, and suddenly we get inquiries from startups and investors from all over the world. They're looking for firms that have an office in Singapore, as we do since March this year. Actually, currently, right now, I'm in Malaysia, right now. Only 20 minutes away from Singapore, but I'm in Malaysia. And so the loophole would be go and get a license for the technology in Singapore, and then go over to Malaysia and use the same know-how and don't pay license fee. And that's legal. So the same applied to the German Mittelstand. So why don't you go to China, get a product that you like, and then you just bring it to Germany, check whether there are patents in place. Most of the time they're not. And then do the same thing in Germany or in the US. That's entirely legal. That's even how it was meant when the patent system was created.
Say, Martin, quick question for you. A few minutes ago, you said you've done, what, 22,000 patents? So
Yes.
years ago, on behalf of a giant German company who's been my client for 40 years, the question came up. They tried to find, so in US and I think elsewhere in the world, the attorney that does the prosecution, in other words, the application, is listed on the first page of the patent. Okay. So we tried to find any of your patents where your firm was the attorney of record on page 1 in the United States, and there aren't any. So your 22,000, are they all done in Martin Schwager's name or Schwager Associates, or are each of those prosecutions filed with an individual attorney's name that's impossible to find your list of the 22,000 patents? So what's the answer to that? You know, what do you call yourself when you file a patent in the United States?
Okay, that number stems from the 22,000 stems from we introduced a new a new file docketing software 6 years ago. And at that time, we had something like 19,000 patent files in our docketing system, patent files plus 6,000 trademark files. This is in our docketing system. And since then, we have done a few thousand more in the 6 years.
But
So
does
this
the
is
name of your firm appear on the patent, Mark?
but
Simple
you
question.
wait, you just hear me out. But first, I need to explain from where the number comes, right? So the question is, how many of these case files would result in a published patent that carries my firm's name? And the answer is that depends very much whether in a specific patent file we were acting as a representative before patent office, or if we did the back office work. For example, there are many applicants, especially if you work for big industry, and you will not get such a high number of patent filings if you do not work for the MNCs. And I just a few days ago wrote up a few names of clients for whom we work or worked. And among those are Siemens, Infineon, General Motors, Opel, Airbus Industries, Vakuum-Schmelze, Oerlikon. But these are only the biggest ones that came to my mind. If I take a list from our docketing system, you would have something like 2,000 or 3,000 names. So, and most of those 22,000 patents were not filed for those individual inventors where we are the direct representative, but were filed by the applicants themselves. So Bosch, for example, for whom we also worked, would not send you an order for a patent application and then you would file it at the patent office. But if you work for Bosch as a patent attorney, you are a little cog in a gearbox. And what you do is you get invention disclosures and you convert those into patent applications, send them back to the patent department, and the patent department would have three patent attorneys that do nothing else than filing patents all day long. And they would file the patent.
Martin, bear with me, okay? I'll give you one example. One of my 6 patents, Quarles and Brady in Milwaukee filed it, and Kohler is the company it's assigned to. So if you go to that patent, it's easy to see on the bottom of my LinkedIn, you'll see Quarles and Brady as the attorney of record.
Yes.
And they do, so, and again, I've done work with Siemens. So you mentioned Siemens. Could you send me a list of Siemens patents that you've done where Schwager Associates is on the first page as the attorney prosecuting the case?
Of course not, because who is on the first page for Siemens patents?
There are hundreds of law firms and thousands of patents.
No, the first page of Siemens patents would be the Siemens patent department.
No. There's attorneys all over the world, and including hundreds right here in the United States. I could send you a list, Martin, if you like. So I'm lost. All 6 of mine have a patent
maybe
firm, including
you
Quarles
stay.
and Brady.
If you don't want to listen, maybe you stay lost. I cannot help you. Sorry.
Well, it's a simple question. I got the question from Siemens years ago.
The answer is very simple, and you don't want to hear it. The Siemens patents are filed under Siemens.
You're an advisor in the back office doing searches for Siemens. That's one thing. But if you're the firm that takes it to the USPTO, your name has to be on the first page.
Nonsense, Michael. This is nonsense. Really.
Well, again, we can agree to disagree, but you totally lost me, and you lost the people at Siemens that I've known for 40 years.
No worries.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's talk about the Malaysia thing. So how does that sound? That you can allow, that the law would allow you to take a design from China and bring it to Europe or the US, provided that you're not infringing their patents. And that happens a lot, or that could happen more often, I would say. And if you combine that with a fighter brand philosophy, that is a way to do it. You have the freedom to operate, and I'm writing freedom to operate letters all the time. And the outcome is very often in Asia that you can do what you want because there's no patent protection in that specific country. How does that sound?
So why couldn't you have done that before?
You could have done that before, but the Chinese products were so bad that nobody would want to copy a Chinese product. It's only since a few years. Since a few years, and my old client, he's making rolling machines. You turn a metal sheet into something that has bends or so, and that's done with rolling machines. And you can make boxes or tubes or profiles or whatever. I mean, many things. And he says he was really scared when last year he went to a trade fair and he saw the Chinese competitors. And while the machines that they made before that were all clumsy and the design was not nice, and they had corners where there shouldn't be corners, and all not good, and the electronics not sturdy as you were used from the German technology. And he says since 2 years ago this has completely changed, and the Chinese machines are now on the same level as German machines. He was really scared, and so before it didn't make sense. Why would you make a copy of a piece of crap that you don't even like yourself? Well, now, now the technology is so far advanced that this is the same. So why not copying a Chinese brand? Yeah. And
gotcha.
Yeah. So
hey, by the way, Martin, I just sent you on your direct link, and I just sent you a copy of part 2, defending the core, and I also sent that to. Hang on a second. Where else did I send that? I sent it to you another way. On 4x4. So
Okay, yeah, my team will take that, especially the fighter brand. I put that's the one. Let me do that first, and then I can make sure that this is published. And the striking thing, especially in that fighter brand article, is that in the end it comes with a washing list of what you should do. Strategic recommendations for Mittelstand executives. Enforce strict product fencing, remove advanced software features, IoT telematics, custom bus protocols from the fighter brand to ensure high-end applications cannot utilize it. Isolate sales and brand communication, do not co-brand. The fighter brand should operate with a separate identity. What I was not aware is that there's a very famous example, the Intel Celeron. So Celeron is a fighter brand of Intel to fight AMD.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that one.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, that's probably one of the ones that's most often cited.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And you won't learn that at law school.
Right,
Then
right.
the next is, yes, seriously, people always think, oh, he's a patent attorney. He must know everything about innovation. And the truth is, no. A patent attorney doesn't make you an innovation expert.
Yeah, right.
To the contrary, I would say. Yeah, so it's a washing list. I can only recommend that. Look out for Rich's article on IP lawyer tools and on LinkedIn over the coming time. Yeah, and the next thing is our Riding the Wave event in October comes closer and closer. We are now finalizing the program, and as it looks like now, we do 3 events per year: spring, summer, and autumn event. And the autumn event would be the coming autumn event would be the one in October. And we only do 2 countries, which is Singapore and Malaysia. And in the spring event in 2027, we would include Guangzhou, which is China. And what I saw is, I don't know whether you have seen that over the past weeks or so, I publish more articles about what the German Mittelstand can do in German language. But I believe LinkedIn offers the translation immediately with it. So you just click it. What I've got as an idea was that the German Mittelstand companies should try to partner with Chinese similar companies, and they also have suppliers. They don't do everything on the factory premise, and then partner with them and tell them, so if your company is trying to produce something in Europe, you can count on us because we are here and we know the suppliers to the OEMs, and because we are already helping them. So then because the final decision about the local suppliers in Germany, which one to use for the Chinese manufacturers, the OEMs, is not made in Germany locally, but is made in the headquarter. And if you already have good friends there, that will probably also help you to be in the supply chain at a very early time. So that is the idea of trying to get a contact in Guangzhou, or Guangdong is the southern province with Shenzhen and Guangzhou in it. And some major car manufacturers have their headquarters there. So I believe we are here in a strategic location. There are direct flights from, and cheap flights especially, from Malaysia, the Johor Bahru to Guangzhou. And which means that within 4 hours and without big woo-ha, you can travel between Singapore, Malaysia, and China, and also Vietnam if you want. So, and I believe this is something strategic here that is developing under our nose. So I would recommend.
So Martin, what's this facility that you rented? What are you trying to do with that?
I call it our innovation hub. and I bring the startups over from Singapore and the German companies from Germany to Malaysia. We are here in very near. It's the very south of Malaysia. Is about 20 minutes away from Singapore driving, and you can set up your own bonded warehouse here, which means that if you import goods to the location where we have the facility, you can import it without paying taxes and tariffs. And you only pay taxes and tariffs if you export it to Malaysia. If you export to another country, you can do so without even pay tariffs and taxes. You would only pay those when you enter the other country to where you want to bring your goods. So this is the perfect place for having a centralized storage warehouse in Asia. And by the way, the Straits of Malacca is only half an hour away driving, and that's the 60% of the world's ship traffic, cargo ship traffic, goes through that point. So
Wow.
yeah, and also yes, 60%. So there are more and more. I told you, right? In walking distance, there's a Mercedes Asia warehouse where they store the parts for Asia.
Interesting. Okay.
Is huge, and
Mhm.
and they found out this is strategically the best, better than Hong Kong, because they can ship the parts that they make all over the place in Asia to here to Malaysia, store it there. Also bring those parts that come from Europe or other parts of the world, and just distribute locally. India and all what is between India and Australia or New Zealand. And yeah, I believe it's also an investment opportunity here. There are data centers opening a lot, to a degree that even the water supply, 30% of the locally produced water goes to data centers in the meantime. The water pressure that in the public system is sinking because of the many data centers that use the drinking water for cooling purposes. So if there is growth in one corner of the world, then it's here. I can tell you. Prices
Yeah,
are still
it sounds like it.
1/3 of what you pay in Singapore, and it's 20 minutes driving away from Singapore.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
substantial.
Yeah, it's really substantial. So property costs 1/3 of the Singapore price. Same property.
So are people moving there?
Yes. For example, Martin Schweiger.
So
I
you're
like
not
it.
going to be in Singapore anymore at all?
No. I'm still there. Still have a house there. So, but since we have the office here and there's more opportunities here, I stay more time here. So next time I'm in Singapore is tomorrow, and Saturday. Probably I'm back on Sunday. And this week I was in Singapore Monday and Tuesday. So that's
Gotcha.
about. So that's. It reminds me so much to New Jersey and Manhattan. And I believe there are also people who are using the same. I try to avoid to stay in Manhattan. Every now and then I give a talk in Manhattan. And if I can, I stay in over the Hudson River in Secaucus or somewhere else in New Jersey. One of those little villages or whatever how you call it. Is it a town or a village or a township or what is it?
You mean in New York, right?
Yes, New York.
Yeah. So it's the boroughs, right?
Okay. Good, boroughs. You need to know the word. Yeah, because there are the tunnels and you take a bus and you're on Fifth Avenue in 20 minutes from Secaucus. I really like it. And I find Manhattan Island too stressful. I can't take it. Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. I mean, this
No, I hear you. I hear you.
yeah. So in Secaucus, they have two restaurants. One is a beer bar with football, and the other one is an Indian. So and that's it. And you go there, people know you. After 3 days, they would know you, and I like it. And similar in Johor Bahru, which is just over the river from Singapore.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, in very short words. So this is where growth happens, and for German companies, I believe, as Günther Veit put it, you remember in the ICM, he said, you better do not count on politicians that they would change your situation. You need to take the situation how it is and try to make the best out of it. And that would include that you have something in Asia. And he said, and I know him for a long time, not 30 years, but 25 years at least. And he started the business in Asia about 40 years ago. And he opened a company in Singapore and he moved here and he did the sales to all those Asian countries, Vietnam and all the countries around here, even Japan. And for a very long time, he was not sure whether this was the right strategy. At one point in time, he had to go back to Germany to take over the business from his father, who passed away age 95, I believe, last year or 2 years ago. But now he sees that what was once his second foothold suddenly became his first foothold because he's selling most of his products in Asia. And he now says even that 20% of his goods are produced in China. And and when you talk privately with him, he has not many good things to say about China. But still, he has a factory there that makes 20% of his goods.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I found it quite insightful. Um, and ultimately, the same happened to me because for me, Singapore was always a second foothold only because of low taxes and because it's not so much about business. But now it turns out that the situation in Germany turns so bad that I should really be happy that I have this office in Singapore. And yeah, so yeah, and it's all about creating options when you still have the power to create them. And that's why we have this program. I want to bring companies to Asia, especially Singapore, and I want them to explore what can be done here in the region. And it's not about you come here and you fly back and you have a banker's check in your pocket that paid for the travel and for even more when you come back. I believe it's you come here in order to build a second foothold outside of Germany. And once that is achieved, you can see where you go, but it needs a certain time to nurture. And I believe Singapore is a good place to start that because the system is easy to understand and easy to work with. Taxes are low, and it's a very straightforward country with a rule of law system, a reliable rule of law system. Different, by the way, from Malaysia, and what I see. So um, I believe it's better to have a company in Singapore with a bank account there and to make all your payments into Malaysia over that Singapore bank account and not from Malaysia. Opening a bank account in Malaysia is a headache. I can tell from my own experience. I didn't have one until 3 months ago. It's really and our facility here is open since March, and you cannot imagine we still do not have a business license because the authorities are so slow and they come up with all sorts of arbitrary requirements for your business license. Even as an innovation advisory, as what we are, this is really the lowest end of everything. We are not even playing law firm here because this is highly regulated and you're not allowed to practice law in Malaysia, even if you're overqualified. So you really need to jump to the hoops that they build up for you locally. So I went low profile from minute number one, and it still takes me 4 months. And we don't advertise the business yet because I just advertise outside of Malaysia anyway, because I don't expect business from here. And because as said before, prices in Malaysia are 1/3 of the prices in Singapore. So if I send an invoice with our Singapore price, the B2Bs in Malaysia would get offended because they think this is unreasonably high. So this is more a business when you come into Malaysia. Yeah.
Interesting.
Good. Yeah. So we are at the end. I need to announce something. In 14 days, I will be on the train in Malaysia when our 4x4 starts. So I would ask you, Rich, could you please take over because you're really so regular and you know how it works. I will not be here. I cannot make it. Would you please do that for me?
Yeah, sure.
Otherwise, I won't be here. I will link you up with Crystal and she will help you to organize this. This is one point. A second point is, Rich, how did you like the preparation for the ICI that we did this time? Was it better than before or?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. Yeah, I didn't see any issues with it at all.
Good. I was thinking about adopting a bit the same thing for our 4x4 here, but yes.
Yeah, the only thing that sort of funny is that when you introduced the panel, you didn't introduce me, but
oh shit,
you left me out of that, but that's okay.
Sorry, that was not. Well,
yeah, I know. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I'd be happy to take over for you next week, and I think the ICI, pre-meeting went well. I don't see any issues with that. I thought that Tim did a really nice job of sort of outlining a whole bunch of stuff.
Can you forgive me for not introducing you? This was
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
You just owe me a steak. That's all I want to see you next.
Okay, come to Singapore and I give you a very nice treat.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I see how that works.
Okay.
All right.
So everything done. Thank you so much, and see you next week again. I really like the discussion. Thank you all. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.